Hello from YouTube, everyone. So to keep things rolling, I'm going to start talking about a bit of our mechanics and the things that we've been working on in the past few months. So with rolling, we've actually added collision with walls and other objects such as ramps. And so on the left side of the screen, you can actually see an early iteration of that. And then on the right side of the screen, you can see us actually implementing some ramps and the different shapes to see what we might want to use within our levels. Along with rolling, we've also added a death so that when Peblito runs into a permanent object like this pillar, he will actually shatter and die. In this video, we also have implemented our new checkpoint system, which reloads the whole map when you die so that our destructibles and collectibles are reset. But each time you reach a checkpoint, we save off the number of collectibles that you have when you reach that checkpoint so that we can restore the collectibles that you've already collected once you die and go back to that checkpoint. In terms of Vine Whip, last month you saw a lot of work on getting the swing right, and this month we've spent a lot of time making sure that the visuals feel good. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see us implementing an early version of our cable component to make the vine seem a bit more believable and have a bit of wobble to it instead of just a straight line that zaps right to the grapple point. And then on the right, we've actually added the parabolic curve to the whip to make its movement even more believable and have a bit more flow to the swing and the actual whip itself. So our new mechanic that we've introduced this month is Burst. It is similar to Dash in that you can use it to travel a short distance in a very quick amount of time. And so with this one, you actually have to press and hold the button to charge up the burst. And the more charge you have, the further distance you will go. As you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, you can actually destroy destructible objects with this. Here we have a crystal, but you could also use it to destroy rocks. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, this mechanic also does slow down time so that you can avoid quickly moving obstacles. Another prototype that we've been working on is a chase camera for our Indiana Jones style boulder chase scene. So here we actually have the boulder rolling the same way that we roll Peblito. So we're not actually simulating rolling here, but we are rotating the mesh in accordance with its movement to give the appearance of rolling. And one of the prototypes that we set out to make but have put on hold is our baseball slide. So Peblito would use this to fit under any objects that he normally wouldn't be able to fit under and maybe get to some hidden areas within our game. We have put this on hold just so that we're not wasting time developing something that we may or may not put into our game. But if we find a use for it, then we have it ready to go and we'll continue developing it. Something that you guys have seen before in our previous status updates is the work that we've been doing with rising fluids. So in this case, water, but in our game, it will be lava. So last month we had the water moving without the platforms, but now we actually have the platforms rising and falling with the water levels. And as we figured out in the months prior, buoyancy actually doesn't work on the platforms if we want them to rise and fall with the water levels. So because of this, and also just the complexity of WaterSim in terms of how it interacts with meshes within the game, we've decided to get rid of the WaterSim within our game entirely. We made this decision for a variety of reasons, including that we aren't using any of its functionality, primarily the buoyancy, in our gameplay, and it actually only works with landscape, and even at that, it doesn't work very well with landscape. It tends to be pretty finicky, and most of our levels are made entirely out of static meshes. So in those levels, we'll actually still need lava, so we would have to explore other avenues for lava in those levels anyway. And moving to meshes for our lava will actually make manipulating the visuals a little bit easier. But overall, this isn't a huge loss since buoyancy wasn't one of our flagship mechanics, and in terms of gameplay, we'll just continue to put emphasis on our rolling, dash, burst, and vine whip. Some other things for the general well-being of our game that we've been working on are jump buffering and ledge forgiveness. So on the left-hand side of the screen, we have our jump buffering, which is exaggerated for example purposes. And it's kind of hard to see without someone actually pressing the keyboard and seeing that you have a little bit of leeway with the jump. But that's just to help make the flow of our game a little bit better and feel a bit more intuitive. And then same thing with ledge forgiveness. We have a little bit of coyote time right at the edge so that you have just enough time to fit in a jump or correct your movement when you're close to the edge. In terms of mechanics, we've also been working a lot on balancing. So here with our burst and dash, we've been working on collecting metrics and actually figuring out fine-tuning those values for the distances. In the upper video on the right-hand side, in the left-hand side of that video, you can see the dash where you go a little bit farther than you do with the burst. And then underneath that, you can actually combine the burst and the dash to go twice as far. And then on the left-hand side of the screen, we do have a video demoing some of the combinations that you can do with dash and burst, which include reaching higher obstacles or even navigating around them. Also, along the lines of balancing, we've been working to balance our environmental challenges. So with the falling blocks in the bottom left-hand corner, we have different fall speeds. And here we can actually delay the start time of our falling objects so that they can alternate instead of all falling at the same time. And here we have a few different shapes for these falling objects, whereas before they were all limited to that one cone mesh. And here we have the different types that one will despawn when it hits the ground, one despawns when Peblito runs into it, and one that doesn't despawn and can be used as a platform. For the lava balls, we have adjusted it so that we can now customize, again, how many lava balls that we have, and we can adjust the path as well as the distance of the path and even the speed at which the lava balls travel. And for the jump pads, we can now angle these jump pads whichever way we want, and we can toggle off or toggle on whether or not they preserve lateral and vertical momentum. And this can be seen with the white platforms, which have it on, and the black ones, which have it off. So these provide different variations of the jump pad and can allow us to have Peblito travel different distances when he runs into the jump pad. As I mentioned previously, we've been very hard at work creating a bunch of action blocks, and we've actually created 43 humanoid action blocks. And something that we focused on when creating these action blocks was combining our different mechanics in a variety of ways so that we can get really cool gameplay and also have action blocks of varying difficulty. And the same thing goes for our rolling action blocks. We actually made 32 rolling action blocks, and these as well are incorporating different obstacles and platforms to try to see what is the most fun and most interactive gameplay that we can have here. So here I will actually take you into our gameplay demo, which will show some of the work that we've been putting into our action blocks a little bit more in depth. And then afterwards, I'll take you on a fly around of our updates to the vertical slice island. So this first action block is the initial iteration, and I will take you through the gameplay, which it only has one path to follow and only one way to solve this action block. So now this is another iteration which incorporates varying ways to solve this action block. This first one is actually a simulation of a player who might be a little bit afraid to use all of the mechanics and tends to play it a little bit safe. For our next one, this character is a bit more confident and decides to use a few more mechanics in solving this action block. Up next, same thing, this is the initial iteration of our action block, and I'll take you through the one way to solve this action block. This one incorporates jumping and some dashes and can use vine swing or burst depending on how you would like to play through it in the new iteration. And again, this is the modified version of the action block. Again, we're starting off with a player who might want to play it a little bit more safe in their playthrough rather than combining all these mechanics in very interesting ways to achieve their goal. Here we have a player who's a little bit more confident and decides to use the Vine Whip to actually get to the final platform. And in this last one, we have a player who is very confident in their abilities and actually blazes their own trail in combining all of our mechanics and avoiding some of the platforms. So for our vertical slice island, we've actually done a lot to add the play path and set dress the area so that it's an interesting transition period from the cave tunnel sequence all the way up to the interior of the tree level. Here we can see some of the houses, some foliage, crystals, and the new entrance that we have added to our tree.